Now, a lot of you have asked me what I did with my old compost bins. Well, I did make a nice, sweet little video that showed you, but unfortunately, I deleted the first bit of it. But here's the rest of it. And remember, if a numpty like me can do this, just imagine what you could do.
So I don't know if you can see this, but this is an old composter I had, and I wanted to make myself a raised bed planter. So I took the old composter, measured it out around here, drilled a hole with my trusty Black & Decker, other drills are available, and then sliced along here. I started off with a knife, a sharp knife, but it was a right pain in the backside, so I changed over to a jigsaw. And as you can see, marked them out all the way down, right down to the bottom. And then with the help of my trusty friend here, I simply soften the plastic all around there, making sure not to let it catch fire. And then here's one I prepared earlier. When you've softened it, I then wedged a bottle in, as you can see. And the idea is with a bottle is that, of course, glass doesn't catch fire and won't melt with those temperatures. And it helps the plastic cool. So you end up with this beautiful, solid plastic pocket. And then the idea is one dustbin or one of these composters should give me around about 40 to 45 planting pockets like that. There you go. Of course, I had to buy these as full bottles of wine and then drain them physically as fast as I could because I needed the empty bottles. There you, you might recognise a bit of this piping as being a hydroponics system last year. Well, I've dropped the hydroponics this year. It was just too much work. You know me, I'm a lazy gardener. So the idea is that this, I'll cover over the bulk of these holes, drill a lot more smaller holes about that size, throughout the whole pipe all over. Then we'll mount this. We'll mount this inside here, put a cap on the top, and then the idea is when we pack around here with soil and compost, inside here we'll put some of the worms from my worm bin, some starter compost, and then I'll daily drop a few little bits of old veg into here. So the idea is the worm farm that develops in there produces compost. The worms go backwards and forwards through the holes, taking the compost out into where the plants are, and then the plants that are hanging all around these outsides get not only moisture, but they also get daily feed of the best worm compost you can get. Now, a lot of folks will tell you you have to have a base on this. You can't possibly leave it like that. And I say, why? And they say, well, because you've got to collect all the worm liquor. And I think that's a great idea. But then I ask them, and what will you do with the worm liquor? Oh, well, I'll pour it on the garden. Well, why bother collecting it? Just put this tub in the garden where you want the worm liquor to go and let it just seep away into the ground itself. There'll be plenty for your plants and all the surplus will go into your soil. So around the outside of this, plant some of your prime crops. Maybe it's your best broccoli. Now, although this is upside down, you can see now that I'm putting a little bit of old decking in the bottom. Now that's simply so that when this sits flat down flush with the soil, the compost and the soil that I put inside the bin will sit on top of this timber and will press the whole thing down to the earth. The reason I'm doing this is because this has chamfered sides and I don't want it creeping up off all of my compost. So you can see looking down the inside of it now, that's the bottom there. So on my soil, because I've got moles, I've put cardboard down as a weed suppressant first, and then I've put wire down, and then I'll sit this on top of all of that, and the post with the worm farm will just freestand in the middle of there. So I think you can see it there now. You get the idea that the pipe goes down the middle with a worm farm in the middle of it, producing liquid compost. The compost soaks through the holes out into the main green tub that feeds all the plants that are tucked into those pockets. Simples. See, there's the cardboard on the bottom, there's the mole wire, and then there's the planter, complete with the worm farm in the middle. Now here's a crazy idea that might just work. In order that the water gets right down to the bottom of the planter, I've put in a tube that I'll bury the whole thing. Then I've created a reservoir here, and then the intention is that this cloth that's in here will wick the water out and if I bury that in the soil and the compost, it will slowly feed all the plants that's buried right down the bottom of the container with water just as much as the ones that's at the top get. So we'll pop it in and see what it looks like. So there you are, it's in, and it's now filled with compost. And you can see here the worm farm, which will be down there all the way to the bottom. And this is that pipe that I'll use as a filler pipe, and that will take the water down to the bottom of the tank. And I reckon I can comfortably get about, I don't know, 30 odd plants in there, maybe more with a few on the top. We'll see. Watch this space.
Well, as you can see, here's the finished product now. There's the old compost bin underneath. You can see how I cut the holes into it, and there's the plants growing out of the holes. So on the bottom we've got nasturtium, and then we've got some lovely rainbow chard, and then we've got beautiful spinach, and then we've got carrots in the top. Now that takes up 1 square metre of space, which normally you'd get about 4 or maybe 5 plants. Now I've got 48, so that's not bad. Now looking next to it, there's the other one, and same again, look, you can have a look. The old compost bin on the bottom, drilled a few holes in it, and now look at it, it's actually a tower of Calabrese. Now Calabrese, if you know it, gives you lovely little florets, but what a lot of people don't realise is that the leaves themselves are absolutely sweet and full of flavour. Now again, I've got 42 plants in a square metre there. Now that can't be bad either, can it? Not bad at all.